Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
Already, I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. My favorite word, tariffs, which for many decades have been used successfully by other countries against us, but not anymore. Companies know that if they build in America, there are no tariffs. And that's why they're coming home to the USA in record numbers. They're building factories and plants at levels we haven't seen, AI, automobiles. We're doing what nobody thought was even possible, not even remotely possible. There has never, frankly, been anything like it. 1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely dead. Our country was ready to fail. Totally failed. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that's said by every single leader that I've spoken to over the last 5 months. Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history that were really accomplished through our great, big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year. And next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time. Because of tariffs, along with the just passed one big, beautiful bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas. So Warrior Dividend. In honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way.
All right. That was 2.5 minutes of President Trump's primetime address from the diplomatic room of the White House on Wednesday. Now, the rapid-fire 18-minute speech was a departure from the president's typical relaxed delivery. Though the speech was praised in public by most mainstream Republicans, many griped off the record about its effectiveness, with one member of Trump's first administration telling Politico, quote, "The execution was abysmal." So here to discuss the major political developments of the week, including the latest on healthcare and the deepening conflict in Venezuela, is our regular panel. We are joined by Egberto Willies, host of KPFT's Politics Done Right, political reporter and former intelligence officer in the Army, the war in Afghanistan, Laura Jadid, and Washington, D.C. correspondent Dave Leventhal. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you for having
to be with you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So, Alberto, I want to start with you. I mean, first off, I feel like the question many Americans are probably wondering is what exactly it is that makes a country, quote unquote, hot. But what was, I guess, your take on the goals from Wednesday's primetime address?
I have no idea why he did it. I mean, it makes no sense for him to do it because his people that would believe that speech are already with him. And what he has done with that speech is codified in other people's mind that he is, in fact, a bona fide liar. It's like he's looking at them and saying, your eyes aren't seeing what they're really seeing. Everybody's seeing these things. And if you're not a Trump sycophant, you already know that he's lying, and he's just putting that in concrete. Now, when he talks about the hottest country, which is your question, Jenna, what does the hottest country mean? It's in his imagination. The rest of the world, anybody who reads a newspaper from any of the Central American countries or the European countries, realize that the rest of the world is moving away from America. You're not the hottest country when countries are trying to get to BRICS as fast as possible. You're not the hottest country when other countries around the world are starting to make plans to live without you. The European Union is starting to realize that America is no longer their friends. The first time they elected Donald Trump, okay, you can make a mistake. The second time you elect Donald Trump, there is a systemic problem within our culture. And the rest of the world has realized that. And while they cannot move along immediately, there's still the ACH and all these other financial instruments that they need from us. Mm-hmm. They are starting to slowly move away from us. And so I don't know what the hottest means, Jenna. I really don't.
Well, Alberto, this speech was reportedly an effort from the White House to help the president reverse some of his extremely low approval ratings. So a lot of what Dave was just alluding to. And of course, we do have the midterms coming up in less than a year. If this was not an effective method, do you have any idea as to what can be done to reverse the downward trend?
Yeah, first, what Laura said about him reading from the teleprompter is something that I should have mentioned. It is scary that, to your question, it is scary that everything that he said on that speech, he read it off of the teleprompter before we could use as an excuse, well, that's coming out of Trump's mind. But remember, he read the teleprompter, which means he had an entire organization behind a speech that misleads, a speech that lies. If the entire administration is in such a point that they don't understand that cannot help them, as you're asking about in the midterms, mm-hmm. One has to be concerned because it says that the entire administration is, in fact, delusional. Because there is no way they can believe that after a speech like that, which his chief of staff actually, I understood, pushed him towards, will actually make things better. Now, you remember that 1776 check that he receives? Why is he giving it just to the military? Maybe it's to curry favor for something later on in case. Who knows?
We know that the Republican pushback has been that the Democrats just want to give, they want to pay your tax dollars to the insurance companies. Does that seem to be, from what you can tell, do you think that's a good strategy? And do we know if that's hitting? Well, we're almost out of time. So, Alberto, about 30 seconds.
Let me tell you, I think this gives a great opportunity with the election, the midterms coming up and primaries coming up. This is the time where progressives need to take action and win in primaries. We can finally have a reason to show why Medicare for all is the absolute and entirely only solution. This gives the perfect opportunity. The pain of the people is where changes happen. As they feel that pain, we can get the change.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it there, but we will continue to follow this developing story. Many thanks to our panel, political reporter Laura Jadid, Egberto Willies, host of KPFT's Politics Done Right, and Washington, D.C. correspondent Dave Leventhal.
Earlier today, I went to the store over here, the grocery store, this big one that we have called HEB. And, when around Christmas time, you're in the neighborhood, usually find a whole lot of people. Yeah, I do have my crazy Christmas hat on. I asked my daughter to loan me something to let me look a little bit goofy because, hey, it's Christmas, fun time, all that good stuff. But anyhow, I went to the grocery store. The wife wanted me to get a few things for the Christmas dinner. So I got there and, saw a whole lot of people that of course. And of course, as I've told many of you before, I live in a very, very red area. And in fact, I would consider it a very MAGA area. And one of my good friends, actually, it's a pretty good friend, turned MAGA. Some people say, how can a good friend be MAGA? Well, actually, they can. But anyway, he saw me. Hey, Berta, how you doing? Give me a big hug, and we started talking, etc. And he asked me a few questions about certain things here in local politics, and because again, they all know what I do as far as the political messaging, etc. And he said, "Hey, by the way, I like your guy, and the reason I like your guy is because your guy is in the middle, and he approaches us, etc., etc." This is the same politician that we actually admonished last week. And we admonished this politician last week. Actually, it's the mayor of Houston, a member of the county executive committee for the Harris County Democratic Party. And a whole group of precinct chairs went ahead and admonished him specifically for helping fundraise for our MAGA representative and also working too closely with Republicans that don't have our well-being at hand. So we admonished him for that. He had a fundraiser or went to a fundraiser for Dan Crenshaw, etc. So we don't support that kind of loyalty. We support inclusion. We support meeting people where they are. We support engagement. We support communication, as you all know. But when it comes to pushing these people's ideas, that crosses the line. And any Democratic politician under our auspices will be ostracized for that. They know that. This is Harris County. This is a progressive bellwether county throughout this country. But here's the thing that concerned me about that discussion. What concerned me most about that discussion is my friend is completely and entirely delusional. He actually believes that the MAGA party, the Republican Party, is in a good position for the 2026 election. And the belief that is the core, its core in his mind is that they are definitely going to hold on to the House, hold on to the Senate, and that the president, etc. If for some reason that doesn't happen, that it means they were robbed. And then he started to bring in undocumented workers, etc. The same old stuff. And I explained to him, undocumented workers don't vote. They don't want to. He started bringing in things about, yes, but they count when gerrymandered. We went through all of that. And I think I sufficiently educated him on how gerrymandering and all those things work. But still, they believe that the only way that what's going to happen or what's likely to happen next year in 2026, which is I am forecasting to be a big blowout for Democrats federally and blowout on a statewide basis if Democrats do their job. He thinks the only way that happens is if there is fraud. Of course, it makes no sense. And I pushed back on that. I made sure to push back on that and make him understand that is not how it works. That's not going to happen. So why am I coming on here on a Christmas Eve to tell you this? Because a lot of people believe in keeping the peace on Christmas when we go to Christmas dinner. And as we all know, folks that are of the MAGA persuasion, they don't give a damn. Wherever they are, they're going to make their voices known and they're going to speak up. They're going to speak out and talk no matter what. And progressives and others have a tendency to allow them to continue and just to keep the peace, say nothing. I am saying even at Christmas dinner and elsewhere, all of that going forward must end. The reason these people are allowed to be confused and the reason they are where they are is because too many have let them stew in their own ignorance, stew in their own gullibility. From the mainstream news media who's paid to keep them uneducated, to those in the progressive movement and the Democratic Party who, in order to keep the peace, just say nothing or do nothing. Going forward, that has got to end. And that has to end at our Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, holiday dinner table. Anything that goes out there that is incorrect should be immediately, nicely, civilly. You must be on record to counter it. And you don't have to argue about it. You don't have to fight about it. You don't have to shout about it. You just have to be authoritative about it. And that means if they say something silly, uneducated, stupid, correct the record, be ready to correct the record, and then be ready to shut up. Donald Trump's approval rating is high. Nope. All the polls point out that his approval ratings are low, and that's it. They want to start a fight? Nope. I'm not going there. Look it up and end it. But make sure, do not leave anything on the table unanswered, because that is why we are where we are. We can't depend on the mainstream media to go ahead and answer the questions, but we can all depend on every single one of us to be the mouthpieces of truth, to be the mouthpieces of what's really going on. So let's not follow the conventional wisdom at Christmas dinner table, at New Year's dinner table, at the holiday dinner table, at the parties that we go to. Without being disruptive, we can actually tell the truth. But again, you don't have to be confrontational at all. The way I do it is I let folks speak. I listen to them. After they're done putting out the stupidity, I simply give a 1 or 2 sentence factual answer, and likely with a place where they can actually corroborate it, and generally end it with, this stuff is not hard to find. You can really look it up from reliable sources. Please do so. And again, remember, a lot of these people don't care about facts. They care about stories. So also have a few stories to tell. I have a whole lot of stories to tell from what many of you have written in. Many of these people that are going to dinner on Christmas, many of them would have received their latest insurance bill. And I'm not only talking about those that are on the ACA, on the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. Many of them will have received their insurance bills from their corporations, from their businesses, etc. And all of these have gone up 50%, some 100%, some even 400%. But the bottom line is all of it has gone up. And that gives you an opening and an opportunity, if wherever you are, to make the insurance case, the case of what they've done with it. The other thing that's going to happen is if you are going to your relatives in rural areas, find out in that area about rural hospitals that have closed and be ready to give them the name of these hospitals. Hey, Jane, who normally goes to that hospital, the hospital is closing. Then that's the result of what we're doing here. If we want that hospital to reopen or whatever, we have to change policies. What we have to do. The stories tell a whole lot. When you start giving stories of what happens to people, real people they know, it actually makes a difference. I have a friend here in town that their kid just had to go to the hospital and realize the changes that have occurred, and now they're singing a different song. Reality, to put it bluntly, is a BIT. Reality is what most of these people are coming into now. And what you have to do is tie the reality with those responsible for their new reality. And that is not difficult. Those of you who follow what we do have all the ammunition that you need to do that. That is how we're going to win this battle. It's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy holidays. But go in there at your dinner table, not confront. But please do not leave anything on the table. I'm open. If anybody wants to throw something in the chat to ask before I close, I said this was going to be a short one. If anybody have any questions or things you want to ask about what to do or whatever, I'll stick around here for a couple minutes to see if there's anything that anybody want to ask. But please remember, folks, leave nothing unanswered, leave nothing on the table. Because like I said, this encounter that I had with the friend, it is clear to me that there's an agenda out there, given that they know that the leadership knows that they're going to lose. They're trying to create the options to create chaos. And we can actually start mitigating that by being in front of what they're planning. Okay? So I just wanted to say this. Use your Christmas dinner. Use your holiday dinner to make your points civilly, quietly, forcefully, assertively. J, B, and C, thank you for instructing us on how to share back. It's so important, J and B in North Carolina. It is so important that we have to continue to engage. What is the word? Engagement. And yes, Jane B, that's what we're going to do. And by the way, Jane B, thank you for that book club invite. We'll have a great time when we start talking about the book that you're actually going to cover. Okay, any other questions? Just give me a shout and let me know. I am going to be checking out of here pretty soon. You can drop me a direct message in Substack, and you can drop me a line on any one of my social media. The best one to drop me a line on, however, is to drop me the line on Substack, on a direct message on Substack, because the other, oh, Ashley, my daughter is in the room. The video is there, babe. Just go ahead and refresh your page. You should see the video of your father looking goofy, because I can actually see it on my screen as well. So, but it's Christmas. We ought to have some fun, right? Isn't that right, folks? Should we have some fun? Let me know if you can see the video now, my beautiful daughter. Anyway, anything else that anybody want to say before I fall off? Because again, like I said, I just wanted to put this out there. I'm going to let this actually stay in the kitchen. Please heed what I've just said. Engage at that kitchen table. Leave nothing unanswered. And with that, I want to wish everybody a very, very Merry Christmas. Even though this is in the past, Happy Hanukkah. I also want to wish you Happy Kwanzaa. And for any holiday that I can't remember, Happy Holidays. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your Christmas Eve. Love you all. Bye-bye.
This morning, I'm going to start not from our prepared newsletter, but I'm going to start from talking about immigration somewhat. As you know, you see all the nasty stuff these criminals, these legal criminals, these thugs are doing. Max thugs are doing in Chicago and other places, beating people up, throwing them into cars, throwing them down. Yesterday, they went and they arrested a teacher on her way to school, where all her students could see her being arrested and manhandled like a criminal. That's what our government has revolved into. Well, recently, our good friend Lizzie, welcome Lizzie to Politics Done Right. How you doing, sis?
I'm so glad to be with you. Thank you so much.
Well, let me tell you, we are glad to have you here. I think this was a post that you recently put on our on our Facebook or something that got some traction, but it is important for people to know. Tell us a little bit about you, and then let's go into what you did.
Thank you again for letting me be on the show. Hi, Mayana. Hi, Jack. Good morning to you both. Essentially, I volunteered to produce a show on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. on KPFT. It's a call-in show, and it's the same number as Egberto's, and I invite everybody to call in about immigration.
Tell us about your show. Yeah.
Why did I do this? The reason I did this is because the news it's coming out at the rate of a fire hose instead of a little garden hose. There's so much information. It is hard to digest, which is of course by design. Mm-hmm. When you create chaos, you can get away with a lot more. You can divert the attention of the public from things that are really horrible happening. So my main goal in this program is to give out some essential resources, not to be the expert, because I'm not an immigration lawyer, Egberto, and I'm not I don't work for an immigration advocacy firm. I'm a retired high school administrator. So my main goal was to give out resources so that if people have a question, they know where to go. Would it be okay if I gave out a phone number right now?
Absolutely. This is what we're here for.
Okay. There is something called the Houston Immigration Hotline. It's answered in a wide variety of languages, of course, English and Spanish, but languages from the Democratic Republic of Congo, from the Chinese languages, Mandarin, Cantonese, etc., all the languages. It's answered 24/7. Of course, they guard your confidentiality as a caller. The number is 1-833-468-4664. 1-833-468-4664. Do I work for this organization? No, I don't. But I know it's an organization that will give out free and reliable information about what to do if you're facing some kind of a personal challenge right now regarding immigration. So I made a post because, what happened was a couple of weeks ago, my daughter called me weeping, my adult daughter. She was on her way to my house to drop off my granddaughter. I care for my granddaughter 3 days a week. She was crying. She had seen something that she found shocking. When you see something on TV, there's a level of separation that you might not fully grasp the emotional impact of something that's happening. But when you see it in person, it's a really different experience. And what she had witnessed was the tail end of a major raid. I live in southeast Houston, in the very near Woodridge and 610, where there's a Home Depot, and the raid was at Home Depot. And what she saw was women screaming and crying next to several work trucks that were now empty. And the narrative that she could put together that I think is true is that the drivers of those work trucks had gone to Home Depot to pick up,
construction supplies,
nails for their hammers, for their whatever. And there had been a raid, and their partners and their wives had shown up later, and there were their empty work trucks, and these women were absolutely bereft, and it affected my daughter very much. So I thought to myself, I got it. When your children, I know you know this, Egberto, when your children get emotional, when your children feel hurt, you feel it 5 times more, So I said, well, let me make sure to put the post of something called the red card and the number that I've already given on Facebook. And I called Marlo and asked her to put on the KPFT site. The KPFT Facebook site has received almost 1,000 comments and almost 800 shares of that post. So it got some attention. I feel like I'm talking too much, Egberto. Do you want to?
No. I mean, not at all. I mean, you're providing us that information. In fact, I'd like you to tell us what's on the post as well.
Okay. What's on the post is something called the red card. The red card is a document, and it is a card like a business card sized little piece of cardstock that the design is that one would carry it in their purse or their wallet, so that if they're faced with immigration agents, they can show the agents their red card. The red card only delineates the rights that a person has. A person, I didn't say citizen, I didn't say legal permanent resident, I said person. Persons have rights under the Constitution. So the red card was developed in the early 1970s, and it was part of something called Know Your Rights training for immigrants, which continues now and happens at least weekly by organizations such as Fiel and other immigrant advocate organizations. It has, again, the rights, and if you like, I will talk a little bit about those rights.
Please.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the rights are they're the constitutional rights, and let me also say that the most frequent comment that I've seen in response to the post is that persons who are undocumented, sometimes called illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, whatever, persons who are undocumented are not protected by the Constitution. That is false. The Supreme Court, there's 2 major cases.
Rulings.
Again,
Yeah.
I'm not an immigration attorney and I'm not a constitutional expert, but just for my own research, I found that there's 2 cases, Shaughnessy versus United States and Plyler versus Doe, which guarantees persons who are on this soil that there can be no deprivation of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Plyler holds that unlawfully present aliens are entitled to both due process and equal protection under the 14th Amendment. So what's on the red card? I've got it here, and I'm scrolling down. I know that the first thing that's on the red card is that people have the right to remain silent, always. Obviously, when you're presented with someone that has a mask on and no indication of what law enforcement agency they're with, but they're demanding you to get on the ground, or they are threatening you with handcuffs and etc., and using very aggressive language, it's hard to stay silent. But you have the right to stay silent. If they arrive at the door, you have the right at your home, or they're knocking on the door, you have the right to not open the door. These are all things that are on the red card. Unless you must open the door unless they have a warrant that is signed that has your name on it. So if they came to my door and it says Lisi and it's signed by a judge, then they have to open the door. So many people believe that this is not true, that this is some kind of a progressive lie, or not even progressive lie, just immigrant sympathetic lie, and it simply is not. I am looking for the red card. It's early in the morning. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, not a problem. Let me just say that I think it's important as you look. Let me just say this as people need to know what is really the right thing to do, because a lot of people that are getting arrested or thrown to the ground, they don't know what is the right thing for them to do, what is legal or what is just hearsay. And one of the reasons I think your show is so important, and also the post that you place on the Facebook at KPFT is so important, is that it actually points out to people, these are the things that you must do. And again, if the agent doesn't follow these particular rules, then what? And I don't know. I'm going to leave that to you to explain. Continue, please, Lizzie.
Well, I don't know what. The only thing I can think of is that perhaps in the future there will be some kind of a reckoning. Perhaps these agents. Now, see, I really think this is so terrible, but I really think this is why they're wearing masks, so they can escape later retribution for really ghastly illegal behavior, violent illegal behavior.
The good thing about that, I like, is that a lot of people are doing deep searches to find out who these thugs are, so that when we have a real administration that believes in the Constitution and believe in legalities, will really, like I've said in many of my shows, there must be all these criminals out there that are arresting people illegally, all these criminals out here, both in the Trump administration doing what they're doing. It is time for us to start amassing the information, because they must all pay a price. This fever is going to break. This fever is breaking. They will pay a price. Continue, sis.
Well, I want to ask you a question. Sometimes I wonder if there's going to be a time where there'll be a reckoning. Do you think there will be a reckoning?
Yes, there will be a reckoning. Let me tell you something, okay? And I speak to a whole lot of people. And yesterday, it's amazing you asked that, right? Because I was speaking to a woman at a protest yesterday, and she said, "Is this all for naught?" And I'm like, "No, it's not all for naught." And I said, "You want to know how I know that? Because we got in one cycle, not even in a half a cycle, what occurred in that election throughout the country. Everybody's concentrating on New York, Virginia, New Jersey, and California.
Right.
That is not where that's not where the real thing happened. The real thing happened in Georgia. The real thing happened in Mississippi. The real thing happened in these deep red states, when the full state had to vote on something, or where areas had to vote on something, that change occurred. And that has the right now in a panic, but it's too late, because the people have already woken up. This is going to get worse. In other words, the torment from the federal agents is going to get worse. the going to different places, it's going to get worse. But we have to keep the pressure on with the civil, peaceful protests that we're doing. We have to keep the pressure on, and the people have got to continue coming out to vote. We are winning this thing. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah. Well, it's just emotionally exhausting, and I really understand that woman's fear, because sometimes I falter. Sometimes I think, oh my gosh, this is just, when is it going to end? Or is it going to end? So to review what's on the red card, which so many people on Facebook had huge problems with, but these are rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution and were they were held up by the Supreme Court in those two landmark cases. Do not open the door if an immigration agent is knocking on the door. Don't answer any questions. Remain silent. Do not sign anything without first speaking with a lawyer. How do you find a lawyer? You call the Immigration Resource Hotline at 1-833-468-4664. Now, obviously, this is going to take, in that moment, you're not going to call the immigration hotline, because at that moment, it's a moment of crisis. So what the Post said was, please prepare, particularly if you have children. In the case there's a family separation, there's got to be a plan. And unfortunately, we saw that family separations are, they happened in the first Trump administration, and they're happening now. Tragically, there are children that were separated from their families from the first Trump administration that have never been reunited with their families. I mean, is there any way to exaggerate the impact of that? I don't think so. I think these children's lives and the families' lives were destroyed. So if you're outside your home, ask the agent if you're able to leave, and say yes and leave calmly. Please try to stay calm. The level of violence has been frightening, and staying calm might help the agents to also keep their vibrational level calm, and they will also stay calm. You may say, I do not wish you permission to search any of my belongings based on my Fourth Amendment rights, and I choose to exercise my constitutional rights. And again, you can show the card. So another thing that the people on the Post, respondents from the Post said, again, almost 1,000 comments, were, what difference is this card make? They're still going to hurt you. I guess my particular hope is that that the agents will take a breath, that they will uphold their promises as a law enforcement officer, as peace officers. You can talk about whether or not that's ironic or not, but I believe people are fundamentally good, and perhaps this will add a layer of protection or give you a few minutes to get sort of your head together. But the most important thing is to have a plan, particularly if you have children. Call 1-833-468-4664. They can help you develop the plan. They can help you find a lawyer if that's what you need. They can talk you through what your options are. The immigration law is really very complicated. There's lots of ways to have entered the country legally, and even have a visa overstay is considered a illegality. So there's lots of ways to be illegal
violation.
As well. It's a civil violation.
Yes.
So, but it's not being treated that way anymore as a civil violation. It's being treated as a serious criminal violation. Witness, of course, the fact that there is a proposed idea that undocumented people no longer are given bond. That's being argued in the courts. But think about it. You're a person on your way to work. Maybe you're a legal permanent resident. Maybe you're a
Even a
brown person
citizen.
who was born in this. Maybe you're a citizen. Maybe you're a brown person that was born in this country. You're on the way to work, and you're minding your own business, and you're taken in. You don't have what is being proposed is that you don't have access to bond. It's being argued in the courts, but right now you're not given bond. It's really kind of amazing. ICE argues that people that have been picked up are not eligible to ask an immigration judge for release from detention on bond. So even if they have spent years inside the country living an upright, moral life, even as you say that they're citizens, they may not be given bond.
Yeah, well, that is sad. Let me ask you, Lizzie, to please go ahead and tell us, because I know you do a show every week where you cover these issues. Please tell folks how they can get to your show and talk to you every week.
It's on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. And the point of the show is not for me to talk. It's for my guests to speak. I hire immigration attorney. Sorry, why did I say hire? I don't know why I said that. I ask to be on the show immigration attorneys. I don't hire anybody. Please, I don't know why that word came out of my mouth. I'm a volunteer. There's no money being exchanged between anyone. I ask experts such as Cesar Espinosa Fiel, such as Edgar from the ACLU, immigration attorneys, immigrant advocates, to come on the show and tell us what they know and tell us how we can all stay safe. 9:30 a.m. on KPFT, the same number as Egberto, 713-526-5738 to make a comment. We welcome comments and questions. I hope that you all will call. And I so much appreciate your time, Egberto, and I listen to your show all the time.
I appreciate you, sis, and this is an important subject that I am glad that we were placed in contact to do this because and by the way, you have an open door into the program whenever you have something to say, because this is important and this is what we're all about. This is what we're supposed to be doing. So,
thank you
por estar aquí. I am so kind. Thank you so kindly for being here with us. And, we'll keep talking. And thank you for the work that you do. It is such important work, my dear.
Se lo agradezco muchísimo. Hasta luego.
Te hablo más tarde. Ciao.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.
And now I'm just going to hand it over to Egberto.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. There you go.
And that, I need to give that to you.
There you go.
All right, folks.
It's fading in and down a little bit.
Okay, it's fading in and down, so I need to speak a special certain kind of way. Okay. All right, folks. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much for being here. For Laura Jones, who is the next congressperson out of District what again? Can you hear it? This is something that the reason I started that way is specifically because we have a tendency to go into things not going in to win, but hoping to win, right? We have to go in to win. When Michelle asked me to speak, I don't know who kind of told her to ask me to speak. Maybe it's that lady there called Teresa. I don't know. Was that you, Teresa, who did that?
She asked me to call.
Okay, great. All right. Anyhow, she didn't quite tell me what to talk about, and I don't know if that's a good thing to do when you have a radio host here, but I'm going to try. I generally just go ahead and say what's in the mind, what's in the heart. And for me, it's about
why we have to go out there going forward to win. And when I say to win, it's basically because, again, first of all, we've seeded all these supposedly red areas over the last several decades. We've seeded this to Republicans for absolutely no reason. I haven't got a clue why we've done that. I'm originally from a Central American country called Panama. And in coming here, I've always wondered how the people that are most represented by the Democratic Party has left the Democratic Party. And the reality is many a times, and people get upset when I say it, but it is our fault, all of our faults. And what do I mean by that? We seeded it. Whenever these people speak, we have allowed them to go unchallenged, unnoticed. For those of you who listening to KPFT 90.1 FM, the stations that we talk about, we don't do that. We are right there letting folks understand why the best option for them is what? Or is whom? It's us. We are the ones who are supporting the projects that they need. We are the ones who are supporting the projects that they want, but they're not getting the word from us. And why aren't they getting the word from us? Because as we hear them say silly things, what do? We generally get quiet. We generally don't say much, etc., etc. So what are we to do? First of all, we should say to Donald Trump, thank you so kindly, because Donald Trump has given us the perfect opportunity to engage. Something that we have not had a way of doing in a long time specifically. If you take a look at the great, big, beautiful bill, that has been a gift to us. If you take a look at what's happening in Venezuela, that's been a gift to us. If you take a look at what's happening with Epstein, that's been a gift to us. But guess what? The best gift that the Democratic Party has had this session is a guy in New York called Mam Danny. Because what that shows, what he did was magic. He went against the Democratic machine and beat them. He went against every machine and beat them. And how did he do that? Finally engaging the people. 10% of his voters were MAGA. Just what Laura is going to need. 10% of these MAGA folks out here are going to vote for her. And you know why they're going to vote for her? Because she's going to go out there and she's going to tell them all those benefits that you didn't know was a part of the Affordable Care Act. It is. All those benefits that you know that your kid is getting in school as a Title IX school came from us. That's what he's cutting. Every single thing that these people are doing hurts them more than it hurts us. I'm looking at a room here full of Democrats. You know what's special about all you guys? Y'all have money. Put bluntly, and I don't care if it's a few dollars or not, but you do. Compared to those folks in Timbuktu out here, compared to these farmers, etc. That's what you got. They don't know that. They don't know that. And the reason why they don't know that is we've seeded the intellect to those without. We've seeded a guy named Dan Patrick, a radio show host. Look, I'm a radio show host, but we've seeded a radio show host to run this state. I want you to think about that. That's who we seeded to run this state. And he runs this state just like an uneducated radio host. We did that. That's what he is. Yes, that's what he is. Now, just to kind of defend myself, now I'm a radio show host too, but I'm a mechanical engineer, okay? And a software programmer. So listen to me, please. Listen to me, please, okay? Please listen. But anyhow, so how are we going to win this thing? First of all, we're going to respect, in my opinion, these are things I'm saying in my opinion, we are going to respect MAGA. Anybody got screams yet? Anybody going to scream yet? My friend Alistair Waters, who's always there on the show, talking and talking. You know what I'm talking about, Alistair. You know what I'm talking about. We are going to respect these people. We are going to talk to these people. When these people sneer at us, we're going to talk to them. Look, if I can talk to them looking the way I do, looking the way most of you do, you can too. You can too. We're going to respect these people. We're going to talk to these people. But before we even start talking to these people, we're going to listen to these people and see what really ails them, see how they really tick. Because you know what? I live in Kingwood, Texas, and I go to these Starbucks and all these different coffee shops, and everybody in Kingwood is red. A lot of them MAGA. And we sit down and we talk. And we sit down and with many of them not knowing who we are. What happens many a times is they talk and they tell their stories, and you sit down and you agree with them and have a lot of fun with them. And guess what happens? They realize that you are kind of just like them, and you've established a rapport with them, and then they start to listen to you. I have two quick stories to tell you. Once a guy came, I'm in the gym, and he slapped me on the back. And he said, "Egberto, you're going to like me." I'm like, okay. And he said, "I'm voting for your guy." And I'm like, "Oh, great. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's good for all the people, etc." And then he says, "But I ain't no damn Democrat." And I said, "You know what? I don't need you to be a Democrat to vote this way. I just need you to think about what's best in the best interest of all of us. And if you did that, that's good enough." The other quick story is I'm sitting down in a Starbucks, and I go to the Starbucks and write I used to go there and write every day. I don't anymore because I'm boycotting it, but I used to write there every day. Yes, I'm boycotting it. Yes. Anyway, so I would write and write and write and write. And this lady came up to me and she said, "What do you do here all the time?" And I told her I blog and I write articles, etc. And then she said, she's telling me about her medical problems, and she had insurance problems, etc. So I'm leading her and asking her what would she like her insurance to be like? What would you like to do? What would you like the insurance company to be like, etc. And by the way, I'm kind of leading her in the questions. So I'm feeling kind of guilty, but I'm doing it. But what she really liked, what she really asked for was something called Medicare for All. Who knows what that is? Medicare for All. Everybody heard about that. She wanted Medicare for All. She just didn't know what it was. So I looked at the woman and I said, "Ma'am, what you're describing here, do you know there's a name for it?" She said, "Really?" "Yeah, it's called Medicare for All." She didn't know what the hell Medicare for All was, but I gave it a name. And then we kept on talking, and more this lady started to become a progressive. And I'm feeling guilty as hell now. I'm like, oh my God. So I said, "Before we go any further, ma'am, I want you to know that of everybody that you know around here, I am probably the most left-wing, pinko, liberal, progressive dude." Yay! And she looked at me wide-eyed, and she turned red, and she said, "But you're so nice." And then I said, "Ma'am, there's a group in Kingwood called Liberals Who Lunch. You should go out with them and talk sometimes. We don't all have horns." Because the reality is, that's who they think we are. That's how they see us. They don't see our humanity. They don't see what we really look like. They don't see what we really think. All they think of is trans, guys in bathroom. All these things are used to distract. And what we have to show them in this election is we don't allow the distraction. If they bring up trans, let's bring up the economy. If they bring up bathroom bills, let's talk about how their parents themselves are going to qualify for Social Security. Don't play on their field. Play on our field, because our field is their field. I want to close this way. And this is many a time self-serving for a station, self-serving for my platform, self-serving for all these issues. Self-serving for something that my brother does here at Houston Democracy Project. Neil Aquino, who's coming up after me, great guy. He runs Houston Democracy Project. He's on Politics Done Right every single Thursday without fail at 6 in the morning, trying to inform. But here's the thing. If we are to be the informers and the supporters of all our politicians all over, stations like KPFT need your support as much as does Laura Jones need your support for her campaign. Organizations like Houston Democracy Project need your support just as much as Ms. Jones and everybody else needs your support. And self-servingly, Politics Done Right, Egberto Off the Record, all these platforms, if we are to get things done, we all need these products, we all need these platforms supportive. So we can't say we want to win and not do what the other side does, and that is invest in their winners. That's right. Invest in their winners. We are going to invest in our winner. Yes. We are going to invest in our winner. Let's invest in the platforms that will give our winner a voice. We have to remember that. Anyhow, without further ado, what do? Miss Michelle? Oh, where? Right here. All right, there you go.
All right.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdone